So, welcome to this small series of videos about trends and trend forecasting, trend definitions, and teach you a little bit about how to work with trends and how to identify trends. But let's start at the beginning. So, what is a trend actually? Well, a trend is a vector, so some direction things are going, and a force. So things that shape the future along with you. So you have to identify some things which are moving, something which is trending. That's not always easy to do because you pinpoint things you think that they are interesting, but you need to have something moving in a direction in order to have a trend. But how do we identify the trends? Well, I have a number of tools, tricks, processes that you can use that I have listed here in this presentation next to me. Uh, First of all, pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is something which is primarily based in statistics. It can be either an AI or a group of trained researchers which look at social and cultural interactions and see if there is a pattern, a statistically significant pattern. The strategic foresight is a structured approach to identify different futures. So you take your quantitative, your qualitative data and pitch it together, and in a structured way, you identify multiple plausible futures. And talking about futures, future studies is then the codification and the contextualization of a future landscape. So you have here a scenario of probable things that you group and put into a context where they are linked primarily to each other, but also some of them are unlinked. And if you find these linked and unlinked groups of possible actions, interactions, then you have a potential future trend. The next one I'll be talking a little bit is where things become practical. This is the scenario planning. I'll be doing a number of videos specifically on scenario planning in an organizational context, but in general, scenario planning is where you identify a number of possible futures and you plan towards them. So you have your starting point where you are now and plan towards the futures and see, okay, what can occur and what can we affect? The next one is where we're starting in the future instead, and we backcast. So we have potential future. We see, we're going to have flying cars. All right, we'll take that leap of faith, and then we will backcast. What needs to happen in order to us to have that future? Or more probable, we'll have better environment protection. Well, what needs to happen for us to reach that point in the future? And we backcast again. If we're going to have it really fun, so to speak, then we'll get into the Imagineering. Imagineering is, well, imagining things in your head or playing them out in more practical terms. It's role playing, it's using science fiction, it's gaming, it's trying to identify these different patterns, trends through interactions with other people. The super forecasting is where we're looking at the super or the more forecasting, meaning in other words that we use crowdsourcing to identify more potential trends, futures, and then we apply network theory onto it to see which is actually plausible and realistic to address as a trend. All right, This was a small introduction to some of the tools that I'll be explaining in the coming videos. Remember, a trend is a force and a direction. See you later.